Casting. Oh, that was faster than I thought. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty, here today with Dave. Do we want to say your last name on the air, or should I just be Dave?
Oh, sure. Like my authorial name, that's author, not like author, would be T. Dave Silva, right? So it's on my books.
Okay.
Can't hide it.
T.A. Silva?
T. Dave Silva.
T. Dave
Like
Silva.
my first name starts with a T. I just don't use it, but it's still my first name.
Fair enough. I feel you. Well, hey, please indulge me for a second. I have to play this contractually obligated intro music. I don't play it, my brother-in-law gets very upset, so just give me 1 second. And that little musical intro, ladies and gentlemen, assures you that you are now listening to a high-quality podcast. High production value operation here, only the finest geeky conversations, organically grown, gluten-free, and prepared for your podcast listening pleasure. With me today, I have got the designer behind A House of Steel, and this is a latest entry in a series you call Metahumans Rising, right?
Yes.
Okay, and we're at Kickstarter now. Before I forget to say it, you see this banner beneath us here. tinyurl.com/House of Steel takes you directly to the Kickstarter. They got about 5 days left. Go contribute. This looks like a lot of fun. I'm going to share some art with you momentarily. Dave, T-Dave, tell us about this project while I share art, and tell us what's House of Steel about, what's Metahuman Rising about,
Sure.
and those people get with it. What's going on with Kickstarter?
Yeah, so let me start. We released Metahumans Rising in 2019. Super powered RPG. We took inspiration from like the format and style of comics and like a lot of the creativity. A big part of it for us was being able to emulate the spontaneity and dynamics of like superheroes. And then here we are, 5 years later. We are doing our first major expansion. We've released like over 20 adventures since the game was launched.
Nice.
But this is an entire, like, we call it a world book because it's a setting, it's new character options, it's new options for the GM. Everything from street level gangs to galactic empires, because that's how spandex rolls.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm there with you. Well, cool. I got to just, people who are listening to us on iTunes or other audio services and can't see it, you've got some amazing art. We're looking at a jack-o'-lantern scorpion demon here, and this is some cool stuff, man. Who is your artist?
The artist is Jake Perez. I have been extremely I worked with him for Metahumans Rising. We dialed kind of in the style that we wanted to do. We did a webcomic together. The artwork you're looking at right now is actually Spider Jack. He's part of our Halloween series of adventures. Which, if you're a fan of horror movies, you can play these adventures and count the references.
I love homages.
When I say horror movies, I mean like classic 80s horror movies, right?
Well, sweet. So under Metahumans Rising, let me just get to the point, I guess, kind of. What kind of system are you guys using for that? That's been around. Looks like Kickstarter a couple of years ago, right?
Yes. So Metahumans Rising uses the same engine as our first release, Fractured Kingdom. We're going to have to go way back to 2013 for that. And essentially, the way the system works is you will build a value in a dice pool based on your character and what you're trying to accomplish. So let's say you want to lift a heavy thing, you could roll your strength. But if you have the brawn talent, you can add in the brawn talent. And if your power supports strength or brawn, you can add that in too, right? And then for each additional, you start with 2 dice, and then for each additional category of thing you add, you get an extra die. Roll a 6, get a bonus. Like, you get a bunch of little mini crits because superheroes are all about doing amazing stuff.
Okay, cool. Kind of like exploding dice.
Uh, sort of, right? Like usually when you say exploding dice, it either means like you double the number or you roll another die. This is like if you roll a 6, you get an extra degree of success, or you do something else on top of what you had planned on doing.
Okay. So critical success.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. If people want to check out the system, another tiny URL, because I'm a consummate professional like that. tinyurl.com/metahumanrising takes you right to the game on Drive-Thru RPG, where you can pick it up right now for the meager sum of $15. And looks like a fun system, almost 200 pages, and this is a really cool cover.
Oh, thank you. Each of the chapters also has a comic book style art, like a comic book cover, and each chapter, like the issue that you're looking at, kind of relates to the content of that chapter.
Nice. What's the response been to MetaHumans Rising in general?
Overall, we get positive reviews. I have run it for tables of 12 at cons, and like it get wild and woolly, but we were able to pull it off in a 4-hour session. Wow. I've run it for kids as young as like 7 and 8. Spandex runs across all ages. So
especially these days, yeah. Well, that's pretty cool.
While we're talking about trying out MetaHumans Rising, if you go to that URL and you go to my publisher page, you'll see that we just released an adventure called Mistaken Identity to go along with the House of Steel Kickstarter. That's a free self-play tutorial. So it's a solo play, and it'll walk you through learning the basic mechanics.
Oh, awesome. Okay. That is pretty cool. And how many adventures have you done again?
I think like 28 or 29, counting Mistaken Identity.
Nice. Respect, because a lot of publishers kind of skimp on adventure support. Appreciate someone who put some effort in on that.
We've really tried to support it over the years, because we want you to be able, like a lot of indie games, there's not a lot of supplemental material, right? But each of the adventures, excluding like our holiday stuff, has really built into the universe that you're going to see expanded on in House of Steel. So I don't typically equate things to Dungeons and Dragons, but there's an implied setting in the player's handbook, right? And we simply didn't have the page count to put a full setting in the core book. And so we had an implied setting there. And each of the adventures is part of that implied setting. Well, we go from implicit to explicit with House of Steel.
Okay.
Right?
So if I understand it, House of Steel is fleshing out the setting that all the adventures have been talking about, and that's kind of hinted at in the main book. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
All right. Cool. For people who can't see it, there is a really cool, I want to say this is a goth-themed villain group, but tell me what we're looking at right now.
All right, so you are looking at the Deadheads. They were a gang that was included in the core book as a example of how to customize background characters. Background characters don't need full character sheets. They just get like a little stat block, and you build them by applying templates. So a GM can make a background character in a minute or two on the fly, right? They were an example of it. However, in House of Steel, we've expanded on them, right? So we take them from being just an example of how to make a background character into a full-blown faction, talking about where they fit in the world, going from the street gang, which is like the point of initiation, to the ancient cult that's behind them that delves into like mystic arts and necromancy. And you're actually looking at members from different tiers within the gang. Now,
yes, and Marilyn Manson in back there is sort of the kingpin.
That would be a fallen. That's actually the spirit of someone who failed one of the initiative rites. And more powerful members of the cult can call them back.
Oh, as in spirit form, or
Yeah,
as
a spirit. Yeah.
Okay. That is pretty cool. Once again, this is really some nice looking art. This is a quality book. But let's talk about. So this is a setting book. So you've got hero teams, you've got villain teams, you've got some adventure hooks, you got some backstory and history.
Got a whole lot of history. We actually have. So it formally kicks off at the tail end of World War One, when an attack on a chemical weapons plant unleashes something called Kaiser Box, and that springboards the modern metahumans as a unintended mutagen.
Okay.
And I was going somewhere with this. Oh yeah. So we go from there all the way into the modern era. And if you're a backer for the Kickstarter, depending on what level you back, you can actually inject your character directly into the timeline, becoming part of some of the events that have happened, major timeline events, or add new events to expand the timeline. And then, depending on, again, the level that you back, you actually can have a entire you get a full character with character art like the one you have displayed right there, included in the book in our Hall of Legends.
Oh, okay. So you can get your personal character into the Hall of Legends. Is my understanding you right?
You get a full character, character sheet, character artwork, and you're in the timeline. Like, you are officially part of MetaHumans Rising.
So that's let me share the Kickstarter page. Which tier are we talking about for that?
So for the whole shebang there, that is our legendary heroes. If you want to join the history and you don't necessarily want a character sheet in the book or character artwork, that's the historic hero.
Okay, just one step down. Okay, and there's superhero, core and steel, historic hero. Okay, yeah, that's still plenty of those available. And at the legendary level, sorry, I'm scrolling too much. There are still 5 of those left. So there's still, you got 5 days, and there are 5 slots left to get yourself in the book. So that's a cool opportunity.
Yeah. If you want to be part of the official history, join us. We did a web comic for the signature team of the first book. And one of the reward levels when we did that was actually to include our patrons in the comic book, right? And we wanted to bring some of that over here. Like, we want you to be part of our world.
That is pretty cool. Hey, let me ask you the default question I'm sure you've gotten a million times before. What sets MetaHumans Rising / House of Steel apart from all the other superhero settings out there?
So one of the things that I try to do is I try to find a balance between mechanics and narrative. And so one of the key things about superheroes is the emotional connections and narrative hooks that are inherent to the character. So when you build a character, you generate a number of drives. Think of these like motivations, right? You could have something like, with great power comes great responsibility. Or you could have something like, protect my reporter girlfriend. And as you play to those drives, whatever they may be, you generate willpower. But additionally, each drive has a value, and if you play towards it, you can add that into your role. Right? So it like, if you play to your character, if you play to your motivations, it makes you more capable as a hero, and you get a bonus for whatever you're doing because it directly relates to your motivations.
So Daredevil's fighting the hardest when he's fighting for Hell's Kitchen, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right? It actually directly incentivizes you to decide to either fight Green Goblin or rescue Gwen Stacy.
Too soon, man. Too soon.
Um, not to stick with the Spider-Man references, I'm going to jump over to the Human Torch. So I mentioned willpower.
Yeah.
When you build a power in MetaHumans Rising, you're going to select aspects that are what you typically do, not everything you can do, right? So if you use the Human Torch, for example, I can turn into a body of fire, I can fly, and I can shoot like fireballs, right? But occasionally the Human Torch will like put someone into a cage of fire or go supernova and create this huge area effect burst.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to put that on my character sheet. I spend willpower to do those one-off actions, right?
So like a power stunt, if you will.
Yeah, like if you're familiar with like old Marvel superheroes from TSR, it's a power stunt, but there's no spending karma. It's a renewable resource that you generate by playing to your motivations.
Oh, sweet. So what's happening in the House of Steel setting in modern times, like 2024, as we're talking about it? What sort of things are happening?
So modern times, you are in the recovery of something called the terraforming event, which was the third alien invasion of Earth. It was actually a mistaken alien invasion, unintentional, as it were. Yeah, those guys. Essentially, there was a arachnid race that their planet was dying, and they built a world ship to slow travel to Earth because it had an environment they thought they could survive in. The problem is they saw Earth in the time of the dinosaurs.
Oh.
So by the time they got here, the Earth was no longer inhabitable by this species. So the AI that was running the world ship started building weapons of war and tools for terraforming the planet. And so the Earth is kind of coming out of this environmental catastrophe with people who extensively never intended to go to war with humanity. And the war ended with waking up the people on the ship and shutting down the computer that was just trying to prepare the world for these people.
Okay, so it was all the AI. The arachnid folk weren't actually involved in the invasion.
Yes. The AI took people that were the least likely to awaken from their slumber and turned them into like cyborg spider jumping arachnid things. Which is always fun. But in the aftermath of that and sorting out what had happened, the aliens, along with a delegation from humanity, have decided to try and terraform Mars using the terraforming pylons created by this AI.
Yeah, I was just thinking Mars would be the logical place to try and put them.
Yeah. So there's like this human, and they're called the Thadmar, this human Thadmar delegation that have traveled to Mars now. But planet side, this also means that a lot of the heroes and groups and organizations, the infrastructure of superherodom has kind of been washed away. And there is this void where we need new heroes.
Which is a great platform for new PCs in the setting.
Exactly.
Yeah, City of Heroes did a similar thing. Boy, that's going back many, many years now. But the premise of the MMO was that there had been an alien invasion, and many of the older generation of heroes had taken on the chin and were retiring or were no longer around. And so the world needs heroes, just like House of Steel. Where does the name House of Steel come from?
So two things. One, I was a part of City Heroes from beta test to the day the servers died. I was a fan for many years. Two, House of Steel comes from the Signatures hero team in the core book. They are the Steel Aces. And that name itself is related to a World War II era hero called American Steel, who is the grandfather of one of the Steel Aces.
That is pretty cool.
And I thought House of Steel kind of sounded cool.
It does. It does. Okay, it's a good metal band name if you ever want to switch it up. So, well, I have to ask. I'm sorry, off topic. What server did you play on for City of Heroes?
I was on Justice.
Okay.
I like if you were a big City of Heroes person, you were part of the forums. I was also the guy that started and maintained the costume request list.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember you on the forums then. Yeah, I was on Guardian. I was in a Galaxy Guardian super group.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I was playing on the new whatever. They're not pirate servers anymore, but
the new official server or
Yeah.
unofficial official server, like sanctioned server.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's legal or not legal right now. I heard there was a deal, but yeah, I was playing again, old supergroup, and my wife has requested that I not do that so much anymore. So I'm temporarily exiled from Paragon.
I may have dipped into that game as well.
Yeah. So all right, well, fun stuff. Well, let's take a look at the rest of the art we got on here. Once again, folks, if you're just tuning in, House of Steel Kickstarter, check it out, tinyurl.com/House of Steel. If you want to check out MetaHumans Rising, the system this is for, tinyurl.com/MetaHumans Rising. You can check that out right now on DriveThruRPG. And you got 5 days left in the Kickstarter, so move fast. Oh, is this a porcupine kind of human hybrid mutant guy?
That is a porcupine human hybrid. So in the setting, there is a subspecies. Subspecies sounds like they're lesser, but there is a human variant called Beeman, right? There was a character, hero or villain or hero, depending on your perspective, named Harbinger, who used a perfected strain of KB known as Quintessence to create a personal army because he had figured out that the Earth was going to be invaded in 1999. And so he prepared his own personal army. The character you're looking at here is one of his early creations while he was kind of dialing in how he wanted to build his army.
Okay. So on the first in the army, is this guy kind of a Magneto XP or not so much? The guy building the army, I mean.
I guess if you want to do a Marvel equivalent, he'd probably be somewhere around like High Evolutionary.
Okay.
Comic book, not Guardians of the Galaxy 3, please.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Not that was a bad movie. I'm just saying he's just definitely more aligned with like the comic book High Evolutionary than he would be.
Yeah, even the Guardians of the Galaxy themselves, and Dan Anda, I love him. He's been on the show 4 or 5 times. Great guy. The guy who came up with the modern incarnation of Guardians. The version you see in the movies is akin to what he wrote, but it's different enough. I would call them. It's a whole different thing on its own. So. Passing similarities, but it's not quite the same. This okay. We got a speedster here. This is cool.
Yeah, that's a character named Breakthrough. Both the characters you were just looking at and this guy are members of a demo team for House of Steel called the Rejects. This guy is a reformed criminal from a different dimension.
Okay.
His power is actually creating pockets of hyperspace. And so when he runs, he actually is bouncing in and out of hyperspace.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So to him, he's just running at a normal, human pace, but to everybody else, he looks like a blur.
Because he's in and out. Okay, that's a cool interpretation of that archetype. I like that. Here, Doziers, Dozier 3, the Rejects. Oh, we were talking about these guys.
Yeah.
This is your demo team. So these are, I'm guessing, these are some pre-gens that we encourage people to use.
Yes.
Okay.
So sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just reading the character descriptions. Breakthrough was a guy we were just talking about.
Yeah, I just ran a 3-part demo of Neighborhood Watch, which is one of the adventures in House of Steel, on another channel. If you don't mind, I'll mention them. right?
No, please go ahead.
And so that was on Fiona Shade Stories, and we use the rejects.
Mm-hmm.
The name comes from each of them are not part of the mainstream society, and each for a different reason.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So our Porcupine Man,
Mm-hmm.
PQ,
Mm-hmm.
is a former B-man, or well, he's not former. He worked for Harbinger because he had no choice at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and because of that, he's kind of hid who he is ever since then. Breakthrough, as I mentioned, comes from a different reality, and he's a reformed criminal. And Firebrand is a generational metahuman. They were born with powers, and their parents kind of hid them away from society
Mm-hmm.
to keep her safe. Scarlet is a Fadmar spider lady who fell in love with Earth and just decided to stay, like despite the fact that her people had just inadvertently waged a war. She's like, no, I'm staying here.
Well, that's pretty cool. I'm guessing that she was the art we saw earlier then. So here's Firebrand, and Scarlet was. Yep, we were just looking at her. Yeah.
She has that light brace on her arm,
Mm-hmm.
which is a tool of her people, but because she's an artist, she uses it much more like say a Green Lantern.
Nice. Sweet. Okay. That is a pretty cool concept. I'm going to ask if you ever played Star Frontiers.
I mean, if we go back to the 80s, the answer is yes, but not since like 88, 89 maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that's about when I was playing it. So it's, I think I played it once or twice, and we were like, this is really complicated, and we're in 6th grade, and it's too much. Let's go, play Atari downstairs. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I had my AD&D, I had Star Frontiers, I had Marvel Superheroes. You can kind of guess which one I gravitated towards of those three.
Yeah, I think I understand. So this is an interrogation scene, it looks like.
Yeah, so that's actually artwork from the core book. There's an adventure included there called Burning the Midnight Oil. This is one of the early scenes in the adventure where you can talk to someone who had kind of a breakdown at a swimming tournament.
Mm-hmm.
But those are members of the Steel Aces, Ronan and Bulwark. Ronan's in the foreground, Bulwark is in the background.
Okay. And those are that's the team from which the whole setting takes their name, House of Steel. So.
Yes.
All right. Cool. Let's see what we got next. Oh, what are these guys?
Those would be Chimera Drifters. So Chimera is a techno-organic cult that believes for humanity to survive, they must be forced through a new evolution.
Okay.
Their foot soldiers are actually designed with a variable physiology. So if things become too dangerous, they will condense themselves, bulk up, become like toughen their bones. If they need to be more infiltrated, focused, they will become more dexterous instead.
Okay.
And they, I told you we did a webcomic. They're actually the central villain group in that comic.
Okay. Cool. So basically, they're Scientologists. Kidding. Sorry, trying to be funny.
Hold that thought. I'll come back to it when you find the piece of artwork for it. But did you ever read Hellstrom's Hive?
I don't think I have.
All right, so it's from Frank Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
You could definitely see he's working out some concepts for the Bene Gesserit in that book.
Mm-hmm.
And I took some inspiration from that for the Chimera.
Okay, I'll have to check it out. I haven't read Herbert in a while. I probably do. Who are we looking at here?
So this is Elf. Elf was a Chimera foot soldier. Mm-hmm. She was a drifter, but due to the events of the Steel Aces Team Origin, mm-hmm. she became different when her genetics drifted. She was broken out of the hive mind. she only has fragments of her previous life. Like she didn't sign up to be a mutant super soldier. She was kind of abducted, and she is a member of the Steel Aces.
Oh, okay, cool. That's nice. Kind of reminds me of Photon. Let's
I can
see.
see that.
Yeah. Oh, and this is where we started tonight, I think. Looks like kind of a cloaked character chasing a ne'er-do-well.
Yes, that is Nox, who is psychically bonded to Elf, who we just saw.
Oh,
they are
it's a cloak and dagger deal. Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I keep comparing your characters to Marvel. I should probably stop. Forgive me. My brain kind of works that way.
Yeah, Nox doesn't need to be like fed like Cloak does, but during the events that broke her free, like they were psychically bonded, they maintain a link between them.
Okay, that is very interesting. Okay, well, this is some good looking art. I would encourage people to back the book. Once again, tinyurl.com/House of Steel. You got 5 days left in the Kickstarter. Please hit it up. To check out the broader setting and system, that's tinyurl.com/MetaHumansRising. T-Dave, anything else we should talk about? Anything you want to highlight before we call it a show?
Yeah, so in addition to the setting, in addition to the new materials for players and GMs, there are 2 repeatable adventures in the House of Steel book. The first one you're only used once per campaign, but it's a adventure where you build your super base. Right? Not every team has it, but if you want to have a team with a super base, you can use this adventure as a way to flesh it out. Even if it's already established, this allows you to add more details, and then allows the GM to immediately blow it up. The second is called Neighborhood Watch, which similar concept, but you can actually play this multiple times through the course of a campaign whenever you want to shine the lens on a part of the city, right? Or part of the campaign universe in general. Like, I'm going to explore this part of the world. I can use Neighborhood Watch to pull details out of that. It's a collaborative world building experience and gives you tools to immediately throw in a challenge as you are building the neighborhood.
So you're kind of doing a patrol or whatever, but you're sort of collaboratively fleshing out that neighborhood you're patrolling at the same time. Is that kind of what we're doing?
Yeah. So like the GM might say, hey, our campaign's going to be set in the central city, and give you these details. But when we go into Neighborhood Watch, we say, well, we want to talk about the industrial district. And we're going to dive into the people and organizations that are in the industrial district and learn more about it, right? Or for the Marvel equivalent, I'm going to dive into Hell's Kitchen, right? I want to learn more about Hell's Kitchen. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So you probably flesh out, friendly NPCs, ambivalent NPCs, some of the, very specific local enemies, that kind of stuff. Okay, that is fun.
Aspects of the neighborhood, what it's known for. You can start building a reputation within the neighborhood.
I really like to see system support for that kind of stuff because there's so many settings where I don't want to name any names, but there's beautiful, lavishly described settings, and then you're like, all right, how do I bring this into my table? Because it's cool reading it, but I would really like this to show up, something my players engage with, and that can be a challenge if there's not a way to, mechanically support that.
Yeah. So one of the things that MetaHumans Rising does in the core book itself is we have a step 0 for character creation, where everyone sits down and we agree on the campaign age, which we use comic book ages, and then the themes of the campaign, right? Is it action adventure? Is it introspective? Is it macabre? Right? What are these general themes? Now the GM might come in and say, "Hey, this is the direction I want to go," but we're aligning everyone's perceptions, and then we're also saying, "Okay, this is where the campaign is going to be set, or this is like the scope of the campaign. Here are some of the key figures key things that we want to focus on, and everyone has the opportunity to interject in this point, so that all of the players are on the same page when they make their characters, right? And so Neighborhood Watch and Siege on Base Alpha, the adventures in House of Steel, just kind of keep that narrative collaboration going once the campaign starts.
Nice. That's a great idea. How's that worked out for you? I mean, you've been playing this game for years and years. I'm guessing you've seen it play out at lots of conventions or across lots of tables.
So in my home games and in the beta test, this has been a great way to, like, people invest in the setting when they have direct input into it, right? Like, Star Wars is a very cool universe, but I can only know so much about it. I would know a lot more if I was the person that was writing part of the universe, right? And this allows you to say, well, I'm adding these things that I want to see in our game, right? So I've had really good reactions to both the Step Zero in Metahumans Rising and to the times I've run Siege on Base Alpha and Neighborhood Watch. Like, players can get very invested into that neighborhood. They want to make sure it stays safe because they help to build it, right?
Yeah, it's your baby in a sense.
Exactly.
So you have skin in the game. That is a cool concept. I think that's really what's going to set your setting, at least for me, set your game apart from other games. Is there's not a lot of settings that get that kind of player engagement, player input from the very first session. That's a nice innovation.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, we want you to be a part of the setting, right? And that's from the Hall of Legends to when you're at the table, you inject yourself into the setting.
Cool. Well, once again, folks, tinyurl.com/House of Steel. Go back it right now. tinyurl.com/MetaHumans Rising. Check out the whole game. T-Dave, it has been a pleasure talking to you, sir. Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
And thanks to everybody who's watched us tonight. We will catch you next time on the BAMF Podcast.